Hello Reddit. Students of Reddit, what's the weirdest thing a teacher has ever done in class? Had this substitute all the time in high school. He would bring this licorice candy that resembled chalk and placed it on the blackboard ledge without anyone noticing. Start introducing himself and say he's weird cause he likes eating chalk, proceeding to pick up the candy chalk and eating it. When everyone looks at him like WTF, he revealed it was candy. Super weird guy, but I guess that's an interesting way to be remembered. Imagine if he accidentally picked the real chalk. My 5th grade math teacher had a pet chalk he called Wanda. He was a goofy fellow and would say things like watch Wanda add the numerators. One day he had forgotten the chalk in his pocket and it had broken. When he went to take Wanda out to do a lesson, there were a bunch of chalk pieces in his hand. He excitedly announced Wanda had babies. Head of year walked into class, randomly tipped his mug upside down, poured coffee over his feet, stared at it in silence for a while, and then just left, without saying a word. What a power move. Had a science teacher in middle school that once changed his shirt 14 times in one class period, all to teach us a lesson about being observant. I once watched a teacher of mine have a mental breakdown, triggered by a student correcting her on a page number. Cursing, spitting, calling young girls whores, etc. was quite the show for 8-year-old me. He was having trouble with his dog, a boxer, Ike, getting into stuff at home, while he and his wife were away at work. The solution to this was to set up a video call with speakers and video in the rooms where the dog was and chastise the dog over video on the projector in front of the whole class. The dog didn't listen at all, which made it even better. When I was a teacher in college, I noticed I'd been assigned to a 4th floor room with a really wide ledge below it that was hard to see. So on the first day of class, I arrived half an hour early when the room was empty, climbed out the window onto the ledge, then waited with a book until I was 10 minutes late, and then climbed in the 4th floor window to introduce myself. It made the impression I hoped. Had a professor that I had been told once ate chalk, so I asked him about it. Grabs a piece of chalk, pops it in his mouth, eats it and says it's really not that different from Tums. Same guy once stopped lecturing, knocked on the whiteboard, walked to the edge, put his face against the wall, as if to look behind it, stated I could hide my treasure back here, and then continued lecturing as if nothing happened. History teacher of mine wanted to be cool with us, the student. He made a joke about one of my friend's mom. My friend responded your mother and was promptly kicked out of class. My friend never got in trouble because he explained the situation to the main office and we all backed him up. Don't dish it out if you can't take it, Mr. Weber. On the first day of the school year, the new teacher started crying because he missed his old school and students. I had a history teacher who had been through a lot of action in Vietnam. He was showing us the PBS series on the American Civil War, and during a scene with lots of battlefield noises, men screaming, cannons, and gunfire, he had a PTSD flashback. He started screaming for us to get down, so we all got down under our desks. After a few minutes he came to and told us he was joking, that we all did well. He left the room and didn't come back that class period. He was a great guy. High school science teacher showed us an old video about the dangers of electricity. Featured a girl trying to hit a shuttlecock out of a tree, hitting an overhead wire with a racket, and falling to the ground screaming. He rewound and replayed the scene at least 20 times, while laughing and grunting. Not sure about weird, but I had a college professor who played World of Warcraft during class some days. Apparently the people he played with were from Australia, so the times they played were mornings in the US. Substitute spent 10 minutes putting a DVD into a VHS player. Being in 4th grade we all just stared in awe. He eventually gave up and asked the class to just play quietly the rest of the day. This reminds me of the time the technician, of all people, couldn't get a video to play on the computer. Then some random kid a few years younger than me walks up to him, literally just presses the play button and it works. High school biology teacher showed us a video of a woman giving birth. After the video ended she accidentally pressed rewind without stopping the video first. Good old VCR days. Making us watch the whole thing in reverse. Imagine a man grabbing a baby by its head and sticking it back in. My teacher noticed that only girls asked questions and engaged in class, and he reckoned it was because he was a male, so they were attracted to him. Hoping that the guys would ask more questions, he wore a dress for an entire day. My stats teacher was holding a mug of coffee and pretending to drink out of it for about half an hour. He then set it down on his desk under the classroom projector, and there was a giant dead roach in it. The class freaked out, and he seemed pretty amused by our reaction. My geography teacher once asked if anyone had something to eat, grabbed a sandwich of one of my friends, and just ate it while giving a lesson. Edit. Since you guys are enjoying this teacher's stories, he also once told us, especially guys, that we have to be careful with cold weather because the willy will frown and not work so well after he had a trip to Poland. A friend of mine's sister was sitting in the chemistry classroom. Everyone started to get lethargic and dizzy, complaining of headaches. The teacher realized she had left the gas on and just chuckled, like whoops, almost killed all my students. She didn't say that, but that's just the energy she had, and turned off the gas. And our nutrition teacher made us eat boiled chicken feet for a grade, but that's probably standard in her class. Had a teacher who was rumored to be a huge pothead, went to Woodstock, etc. Anyways, at one point in class he told us to get started on an assignment, then walk to the back of the class, where there was a closet with a water heater in it. For whatever reason, there was nothing in there but a water heater. He walks in, squeezes himself in next to it, and closes the door behind him. He stayed in there for about 20 minutes. Either that closet was a TARDIS, or that dude was high AF not knowing where the hell he was. My teacher at elementary school had one child in every class, charged with changing her shoes every morning, since she had some painful wart on her feet. I can only imagine how humiliating it must have been for them, on their knees in front of the class, handling smelly teacher feet. Of course she wasn't mentally stable. She used to beat the students, and it was common to not go to school on Saturdays, since we had 4 hours with her. One of them sang a whole new world Aladdin in German, but she replaced the lyrics with her describing her house. Never seen a room of kids try so hard not to laugh, but she don't the same thing to all 4 of her German classes. One of my classmates brought these 2 steel magnetic marbles to school and was playing with them in class. Our 8th grade English teacher confiscated them, slid them under her bra, fished them out, and gave it back to him. Of course he didn't want them back after that.